Okay, now you've got the concept of loading a wide backing, a wide chunk of batting, and then plopping all your cuddle quilts, bed runners, table runners, placemats, coasters. Yep, I have quilted a coaster on a Longarm. If you've got that backing and that batting down, you can lay as many small projects on top of it as you want and just quilt right over everything all at the same time. Where that particular thing doesn't work is if you wanted to change out your pantograph with each quilt, or you wanted the opportunity to be able to change out your thread color. So the solution to that is you're going to piece each backing together for each quilt that you want to quilt, and we're going to load it vertically. Okay, so think of that scarf that a magician has. He keeps pulling it out of his sleeve and it's just color after color after color. That's how we're going to do it. Okay, so I've got 3, and this sample is ridiculously large, but I wanted to be able to show you the concept. I've got 3 backings here. It's just solid fabric. There are no real quilts in this demonstration. I am just trying to show you the concept. So I've got my 3 different fabrics. Now you do have to, if you're going to do this, you do have to have your backings the same width this way when you stitch them together. And I have just basted them 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch less than in the selvages with just a basting stitch. I did a little back stitch at the edge of each side so it doesn't start to come apart, but you do want to make sure that the backings are the same width this way. Length doesn't matter because each backing is for a specific quilt top, right? So it doesn't matter if one backing is only this deep and then the next one is this deep and then the last one is this deep and then you've got a little one, a skinny one, maybe you've got a bed runner, but you want all these things to have different thread colors and maybe pantographs. Even if you're free motion quilting from the front, this is still a really efficient way to not have to load every single small project. Okay, so I'm going to take whatever one I want at the top, and I think I'll start with my blue. I'm going to throw the blue all the way over the frame. I've got the wrong side of my fabric up, so I always start from the front. Stand in the middle. Now this is all loading a quilt. I have a video on loading a quilt, and I also have a video on setting up a pantograph. So to get into more detail, if you want to see one of those, check those out. They're on the channel here. And we're going to clamp down this edge. And I'm going to wind this up. Now, the reason I have it thrown over the back like that is so that as I'm winding it onto my belly bar, it's going to pull against the canvas that's on the pickup roller, and it helps the fabric wind nice and tight, or taut, I should say, nice and smooth and even onto my belly bar. So I'm going to wind this up, make sure it's winding on nice and smooth. So there's backing, there's my last backing, right? Because we're putting this down here. Here comes the green. This is my backing fabric for my second one. And then there's my top one. We're going to pretend that that's straight. I'm just throwing it on here, so it's not a perfect load. It's not going to be a quilt. It doesn't matter. Just for demonstration purposes. Then I'm going to load or attach my backing to this top roller here, making sure you've got that nice even backing. And I'm going to clamp this down. Now I'll lay my wide piece of batting down. And I'll lay my first quilt top on the top. We're going to leave this on here actually because I'm going to show you something real cool with pantographs in a minute. So I would now load my pantograph onto the back. I would start with the largest one. If you've got different sizes, start with the big one. And then when you set up your pantograph, you're going to set it up for the big one. Back there with the tape, the way I teach you how to do it in the pantograph video. Okay? So this is on here. Our pantograph, our boundary lines are marked at the back, all that good stuff. I'm going to baste my 3 sides and I'm going to start quilting. Now, we're going to skip through the quilting part and we're just going to keep going. I'm going to wind this up as if it would be wound up when you were quilting through it. So we're quilting the rows, advancing, quilting the rows, advancing, quilting the rows, advancing. So there's my quilt top. I finished that quilt. I'm going to smooth out my batting. I would have been doing that properly during the quilting process of quilt number 1. So I think we'll put a yellow one on this one. Like my fancy quilt tops? See how much I piece? I am going to make sure that it is straight the way I teach you in the loading video, using your channel lock if you have one to make sure that you've loaded your quilt top straight. Now at this point, if you were finished this one and you wanted a different pantograph and a different thread color, this is the time to do that. Your boundary lines are going to be the same coming down, right? I'm assuming at this point that you've actually, these quilts are the same size, or this one is just a little bit smaller. If you start with a smaller one and you put a bigger one as the next one, you're going to have to change those boundary lines. So maybe start with the biggest one at the top. Does that make sense? And then that way, if you stitch off this one a little bit extra, it's not going to matter. What you don't want to do is put that one up there and have that one smaller and then just keep continuing down and this one be bigger and then you're stitching way inside your quilt top. Okay? So if I wanted to change my panto, my thread, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to do that now. If not, you're just going to keep on quilting. You don't even have to reset the top. You just keep quilting the same design over and over and over again. Okay? Baste, baste, baste. Quilt, quilt, quilt. Make sure you're basting your sides first. Please baste your sides when you're quilting. Edge to edge, any kind of quilting. Always baste the sides in the quiltable space before you start quilting. And you could have a larger backing for each section. One section could be a bunch of placemats. The next backing could be for a couple of baby quilts. The next one could be for something else. Do you understand the concept? Just think in bulk, right? So this one, and again, I would be paying attention to my batting as I'm quilting and winding up. And then my third one, or 5th one, or 45th one, depending on how many things you've put on here. This is so fast. It really is. And then I would tuck my last one here and continue. If I wanted to change out my panto and my thread again, like I said, you would do that. If not, you just keep quilting. And then when you pull it off, you have this huge magician scarf trick full of quilty things, and you only had to load the backing one time and the batting one time. And you just keep plopping it all down and get it done. Cool, right?